Hello everyone, welcome to BA Consulting Pro. This is episode 6 of our DA100 tutorials series. In today's session, we are going to discuss about performance optimization. What is performance optimization? Why do we need it? What are the different ways that we can optimize the performance of Power BI report? And also, what are the different levels where we need to do the performance optimization? There would be 4 to 5 questions in your DA100 exam based on the performance, and you need to answer them. That can be based on the relationship or any visualization or based on the case. So let's get started. Performance optimization is also known as performance tuning, which involves making the changes in the current state of the data model so that it runs more efficiently. Essentially, when your data model is optimized, it performs better. So let's first see what is poor performance versus high performance. So in case of poor performance, the data model is running slowly, report pages are taking longer time to load, and also the visuals are taking more time to load. When we are gonna say that report is performing well or the performance is high, that means the data model is running fast, report pages are loading quickly, as well as visuals are taking almost no time to get loaded. That can happen once you are going to do the fine tuning of your report, and there are several ways to do that. We are gonna learn everything about it in this session. You should always remember that 9 times out of 10, poor performance is a direct result of bad data model or bad DAX or mix of two. In my previous videos, I always asked you to please spend your 70% of your time on your data modeling, because data modeling is the base of any reporting system. Now, how to get maximum performance from a data model? So the main idea behind is that you have to minimize the size of the data to optimize your performance. Whenever we say that how to minimize the size of the data, so there are different techniques which we are gonna learn later part of this video. But overall, I can say that we should go for the specific data only. If we are getting a data from a table, we should not go for all the columns, just get those columns which are required to create that particular report. Also, there are other techniques as well. For example, date and time field, generally it creates a lot of data in the Power BI. Then we should not go for the default options in Power BI. We should explicitly go for the only which we require. So we are going to learn everything about it, but now, there are the different levels of performance issues in Power BI where we can fine tune our report or where we can do the performance tuning. So these are like on the report level, basically for your visualizations or DAX, we can do that kind of performance tuning over there. Then it comes to the data model. And lastly, we talk about the connections level. Let's review performance of measures, relationships and visuals, how we can do that. As I mentioned earlier, because where we have to do this performance tuning, we should always keep some things in your mind. First of all, we should find the root cause of the problem. Whenever we experience poor performance in our data model, so from where to start? Always that's gonna be the biggest question, from where you need to start doing the performance tuning. For that, I have mentioned some of the thumb rules that you can also follow. And one of them is the very first, which I'm gonna say, that you need to find the root cause of the performance issue. By saying this, you should know whether it's a report level performance issue, or it's gonna be at the model level, or it can be on the connection level. So always find the root cause first. Then you should review the measures and the queries in your data model. And if I'll talk about the step third, what you can do, you can use help of some of the external tools in the market which are available, like the DAX Studio or the tabular editor, to optimize the DAX and data model performance. Now let's talk about analyzing the performance. Till now we have learned where can be the different kinds of issues, what are the different kinds of level of performance, and where we can face those kinds of issues. Now we are gonna learn how to analyze the performance of our Power BI reports. So for that, make sure that you start with a clear visual cache, and a clear data engine cache. So in these snapshots, you will see how to analyze the performance of your report. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just show you quickly on Power BI desktop how to do that. You can see on my screen, this is a sample Power BI report from the Microsoft. If you want to download it, you can also do the same. I'll provide you link in the description section. Now, once we need to measure the performance of our report, whether it's gonna perform well or its performance is poor. So what you need to do, you have to come in the View tab on the top, and over here you will see this Performance Analyzer. You just need to click on this button and you will see there's a Performance Analyzer pane on my right hand side. Over here you can start recording, and once you will start recording, you will switch on any other page, or you can even, rather than coming on to the next page, you can just refresh the page. That's how you can do it. So you will see over here in this pane, there are the different matrices are appearing over here. And over here you will see Q&A, blah 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 blah. You can sort over here as per your requirement, ascending, descending, or you can even sort by certain metrics as well, like total time, action order, Dax query, visual display, etc. And then you can go further into this one. Once you will expand any of these, you will see copy query, or you will see whether it's because of the visual or any other. Any other means any interaction or whatsoever is happening over there. If I come over here, like suppose in this one, you will see copy query. So you can copy this query from here. And as I mentioned you earlier, like we have certain extra tools as well, which we call the external tools, like the Dax Studio, Tabular Editor. You can copy this query from here. Now what you need to do, you will come over here in the external tool window, and then from here you can launch your Dax Studio. By default, it would take the connection from this data set only, the report that we are just using over here. And here you can Control V and your query is there. Now you can run this query over here and you can see what is the performance of this query. But make sure you clear this engine cache over here. You need to also clear the visual cache memory that I talked about you earlier. So if you need to clear, first just click on the clear. That means it's been cleared, the cache, and that's gonna give you now the accurate result. And over here you can run it. Once you will run, you see the result is over here. But if you want to see how long it took to run this query, what is the query, database, etc., everything is over there. So this cache over here, this is basically for clearing the data engine cache, so that from the start or from the beginning you are starting to evaluate this query results. Also, you will see there's one more option over here which is saying clear cache and then run. So you can start with this as well. So it's gonna start from the beginning and you can see your results over here. If you want to clear the visual cache memory, then you can come over here and you can clear it. Now you will see on my right hand side nothing is there. As soon as you will refresh visuals, it start loading all the visuals again, and that means you can analyze the performance over here. That means how long these are taking to load and everything. Lastly, I would like to discuss one more point where you can clear the cache. You can come over here in the file menu, then you will go on the options and settings. In the options and settings, there is an option. So once you are gonna click over here, the new panel is gonna open, and from here in the data load you can clear the cache as well over here. Since we are already over here, then I would like to highlight over here the time intelligence function. Please uncheck this option because this is gonna have a huge impact on the performance. If you are not gonna believe me, load your data into Power BI first with this check option and secondly with uncheck option. You will realize the Power BI file size is gonna decrease, and then you will get to know why the performance impact is there. Because once we are gonna check this one, what happens, Power BI automatically creates a lot of date tables behind the scene. So Power BI creates a separate date tables, and because of those date tables, your data size or your data set or your Power BI file size is gonna get increased. If you want to learn more about this one, I'll provide you some of those links in the description section. In case of the report performance optimization, you always need to remember certain steps, and please always try to follow these steps. The very first over here, that always try to use the default visuals or only the certified visuals which are available on the app source or Microsoft Visualization Gallery. Do not use the newly created or uncertified visuals because they can have a great impact on the performance of the Power BI report. Secondly, if you have a lots of visuals into your one page, I'll suggest you create a separate pages, and in each page just keep like around 8 visuals or 10 visuals, not more than that. Because the more the number of visuals you are going to add into your report page, the report page is going to be heavy, it's going to take a lot of time to load, and that is going to come under the category of poor performance of the report. While creating the dashboard, you should always just try to limit every dashboard to maximum 10 tiles per dashboard. If you are going to go more than that, then there's an impact on the performance, and if you think it's under your threshold value of the performance, then you can keep it more than 10. So I'll leave it up to you, but these are the few steps that you should always take care of while doing your report performance optimization. And I have already mentioned in the previous step how to do the report performance optimization using performance analyzer. Next is the model performance optimization. So we have already discussed the very first one, which is the report level. Now we are going to talk about the model level, how we can do that. In case of model performance optimization, there are certain steps that you should always remember. Like I mentioned in the very first part of this video, always try to remove the unnecessary columns. Do not get all the columns from the tables which are even not going to use into your report. Secondly, you need to analyze the metadata. Metadata means what are the data types and what should be the data type. There are certain data types which takes more space rather than the others, so you should keep those things in your mind. Thirdly, as I just mentioned to you, turn off auto date time feature. You don't need to. And lastly, performance calculations you should perform at the source level. Like for example, you are using the SSES cube or you are using the SQL Server database, then you should do all those calculations, creating views or tables or summary tables, etc. only at the source level. And if you are getting data from certain files or you are importing the data, then please always do your calculation at your query level, that is in the Power Query. So what would happen, or once you will start refreshing the data, you will load that data, and every calculation whatever you want to do, it's gonna be done in the Power Query mode, Power Query itself, and that's gonna be much faster as compared to once you're gonna load the data and then you're gonna create certain columns like a calculated columns, etc. I know there are many situations when it's not possible to create the calculated column inside Power Query. That time you can use it, but my suggestion is always try to avoid creating those calculated columns once you load the data, like you click and apply, close and apply, and then you are doing something extra into Power BI report. It happens generally whenever we are trying to sort the data, we are creating certain columns, calculated columns, and then we are trying to use that report. There is a high performance impact. Now let's understand the cardinality. So what is cardinality? Cardinality is basically, we talked about the uniqueness into a column. We always talk about the uniqueness or the distinct values into your certain columns or in your table. So higher the cardinality, lower would be your performance. So if the cardinality is lower, then your performance would be higher. Why is that so? Because just think about, you have one table that has 1 million records and each record is unique or distinct. What's going to happen? It's going to take a lot of time to search that data. So we always try to flatten our tables, or in other terms, if I'll talk about, we always try to reduce the cardinality. How we can do that? We can create some summarization tables, and those summarization tables we can use. Let me take you on my Power BI desktop where I can show you how to do that. Over here, let me close this performance analyzer. We are not talking about this one anyhow. So you will go in the transformation tab. You can see there is a product table, for example, if I'll talk about this. And just consider this table has a lot of data and you want to do the summarization. So you can come on the home ribbon and there is a group by. So using group by, it would give you a couple of options, like you want to group by which is your table, you want to group by product, then what is the operation that you want to apply, sum, mean, max, etc., then column. So what it's gonna do, it's gonna summarize your table, and after summarization there would be only few rows, and that's not gonna take a lot of time to perform your calculations or load your report or rendering Power BI report. Also, if you would like to know like what is the cardinality and how to use that, you can come in the view tab. Column distribution is that key column which is going to tell you how many distinct values are there or how many unique values are over here. As I mentioned you earlier, there are the 2 points you should always remember. Most effective techniques to reduce a data model size is to use a summary table from the data source, and secondly, another effective technique to reduce the data model size is to set the storage mode property for larger fact table size to direct query. The second point is very important. I would like to mention this in the connection level performance tuning, but if it's over here, let's discuss about this. Import data is the fastest possible option for the connections. Data is loaded into the memory of the server and all the queries will be resolved immediately. So always try to get the data in the import, but always remember you should only use your import data connection type when your file size is less than 1 GB. If it's gonna be more than 1 GB or 1 GB, it's not gonna perform well. Some of the fact table I can understand we have more than a GB of the size. So in that case, always try to get your fact table or the table which has a very huge volume of data. Always try to get data through the direct query. Now there's a concept of relationship cardinality. So always we should try to reduce the relationship cardinality as well. For example, if you're going to talk about one-to-one when you have a unique, then instead of using that, you can even merge those tables. So over here you don't need to think much, but you just always remember that your data model, if that has one-to-many relationship or many-to-one, that is gonna be the perfect fit over here. Many-to-many, it's gonna take a lot of space, it's gonna perform a lot of calculations. For example, we talk about the product and the sales table. Over here, product is my dimensional table while sales is my fact table. So there is a one-to-many relationship over here. Always try to have one-to-many relationship in your data model, and then you would have the best performing data model in terms of relationship cardinality. Now, if we talk about the optimizing the data query models with table live storage, so I discussed just a couple of minutes back about this. So there are the different kinds of data connections available in Power BI, like the import, direct query, and also the live connection. You should know which connection to use when. For example, if you are analyzing the historical data and the volume is super high, then I would recommend always go for the live connection, because like analysis services, Power BI data sets, etc., you can connect with the live connection where you can almost get the data in the real time. When your data size is not so high, even like in GBs or something, then always consider to use the import mode as your storage mode or data connectivity mode. What it would do, it would eventually fetch all the data into Power BI memory itself, and where the calculations is gonna be fast because you don't need to query outside the Power BI file. Query reduction. Always try to reduce the interaction between the visuals. So as soon as you are gonna reduce these interaction between the visuals, what would happen? Eventually there would be less queries are gonna be in the Power BI report, and less queries means less time consuming, and your report is gonna load fast. So whenever we are trying to get the data through direct query or some of the file that is being loaded into your SharePoint or somewhere, so Power BI always interacts with that data and it's going to and fro. That means it's taking a lot of time. So there are certain ways that you can do, but the most efficient way over here, you can see on my screen, you have to go to the query reduction options, and there you can check mark these options. So aggregations, I have already mentioned you can do this kind of aggregations using group by. And also once you loaded your data, then you will see there's an options of manage aggregations where you can manage your aggregations, and that is going to help you to create the summary reports itself. For example, like I'm using a table for my sales and I just want to see the data on the yearly basis. I'm not worrying about the day to day. If I'm gonna worrying about the day to day, then there would be 365 rows for each year. And if I'm just trying to evaluate the data for the last 10 years, that means 10 multiplied by 360. Instead of that, what I can do, I can just create the summarized data over here yearly. I can group by year, and then there would be only 10 rows for that particular table. That's how we can summarize our data, and we can manage those aggregations in Power BI, which is going to help you a lot to improve the performance of your data model, performance of your Power BI report. Now let's talk about the Dax Performance Optimization, which is basically on the report level. So whenever we are writing Dax, you should always try to analyze the performance of DAX, and you can use the performance analyzer in order to analyze the performance of your DAX. And if you really want to improve the performance of the DAX, always try to use the variables. Please go through the DAX Sundays, where I'm creating a lot of DAX videos. Every Sunday we bring something new in DAX. Always try to use variables in DAX. You can see the two examples, without variable and with variable, and once you are gonna run these two examples into your machine, you will see how much is the performance impact. Use external tools for your analysis. So as I mentioned from the beginning of this session, you should always use external tools, that is DAX Studio, then we have a tabular editor, and there are certain other tools as well which you can use to analyze the performance of your query, how it's performing, how long it's gonna take, what are the changes that you can make in the code to improve that performance. As I just mentioned, always try new logic or new DAX function to change the code if your DAX is not performing well. For example, you see this code where I'm gonna count the customers, and initially I'm using the calculate, and then I'm using inside that the distinct count, and over here I'm also using a filter. So if rather than this code, if I'll use number second code over here, count of customers, I'm using again distinct, but the third step you will see I'm saying key filters order quantity greater than equals to 5. You would experience the performance difference between these two functions. So what overall I'm trying to say over here is just always analyze the performance of your DAX. So this was all about improving the performance of your Power BI report, which includes basically the three levels: report level, model level, and the connection level. I discussed everything with you. Please stay tuned for more videos. Like this video, subscribe our channel if you are new over here, and don't forget to share this video with who are preparing for GA100 exam.